All right, shalom, shalom. I'm going to start off this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders, a great millstone that rule well, that teach well while learning truth. 100% according to the Bible. Also want to say shalom to the elect, the 144,000 men, the prophets, the servants scattered abroad the four corners of the earth, and shalom to the Akwaf, the sincere sisters that are sincere, and your children. Shalom. And in today's video is going to be just basing off a lesson of fearing the Lord, because we know it's very important to fear the Lord, man. For the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, right? As it says in this precept, this is Proverbs 1:7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, right? So the beginning of, understanding the scriptures, the beginning of doing things in which it is that is pleasing unto the Lord, not going off, not doing things that we know is ultimately, not pleasing to our power. We know that through the fear, because the fear is going to, ultimately pull us away from, doing certain things in which it is that we know is not pleasing to the Lord, just like, when we came into this truth, we stopped doing certain things, like brother stopped eating pork, brother stopped smoking, brother stopped doing a lot of different types of things. And the fear of the Lord is what drove those wicked sins and those wicked behaviors that we once had away from us, man. All by us fearing Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah, But it said, but fools despise wisdom and instruction, right? So I'm going to go down to another precept just touching on that. This is Job 28:28. And it said, and unto man he said, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding, right? Because you can only depart from evil, right? Constantly engaging in sin, constantly going off and doing things that it is you're not supposed to be doing. You're going to abstain from those things when you truly fear the Lord, because knowing that Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai's eyes is 10,000 times brighter than the sun, right? And I'm going to go to that precept through the spirit. But we know that the Lord is watching everything, man. You can never pull anything over on the Lord. So that's what ultimately, makes that fear kick in, knowing that the Lord is watching us. He got the angels, seeing everything in which it is that men are doing at all times. So nobody's never really getting away with anything. The wicked deeds people think they're doing that they think is not being seen. The Lord is watching all of that, man. So I'm going to get this precept. This is Sirach chapter 23. Verse 19, and it says, such a man only feareth the eyes of men, and knoweth not that the eyes of the Lord, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, are 10,000 times brighter than the sun, beholding all the ways of men and considering the most secret parts, right? So we can't really get nothing over on the Lord, man. For you people out there that could be, constantly engaging in things in which it is that you're not supposed to be doing, nobody's getting over on the Lord. You can deceive men, you can deceive women, you can deceive anybody, but you can't really get over on the Lord. But ultimately, when brothers are sincere and they're truly fearing the Lord, is going to know and put that spirit on them to be like, we know the Lord is watching. We're not going to do things which we know is not pleasing unto our power, because we know ultimately it can lead us into death, man. It can ultimately lead into a lot of, things happening unto us when we're not sincere in this thing, right? But you're only going to have that sincere spirit on you is ultimately if you fear the Lord, man. Right? Because as it says again in this scripture, I'm going to read it again. Proverbs 1:7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, right? So once you fear the Lord, man, that's the beginning of knowing all things, man, according to the scriptures, and knowing the things that are true in this world. You're going to know that through the fear of the Lord. He's going to teach you those things, right? Through you fearing him, right? And we know that ultimately us fearing the Lord is the whole reason why we were put on this earth, to serve Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, to keep the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of our abilities, to walk after the ways of righteousness to the best of our abilities, even being in these wicked bodies that we're in. We still know that that's the whole point of the Lord putting us on this earth, man, to ultimately to fear him, to serve him, to worship him, to reverence him, and all of these different types of things. We do that to the best of our ability, but this is Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. It says, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man, right? So that's the whole reason we were put on this earth. We wasn't put on this earth to chase after riches. We wasn't put on this earth to, try to be famous and all of these other different type of things that it is people's mind, mainly our people, is focused on. No, man. Mainly the men, of the tribes. We were put on this earth to serve Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, man, and to do the things in which it is he requires us to do to the best of our abilities, which are keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, man. We're trying to walk after the ways of righteousness. That's our whole duty as, men, right? But only a few men are ultimately walking in those characteristics or in that mindset today, because the Lord is only dealing with a few men. He's not dealing with all Israel or neither the heathens, man. So, only a few people that truly fear the Lord are his elect. Right. And Lord's will we be at that number. But everybody don't fear the Lord. And you could tell a lot of people don't fear the Lord. Like I said, because as I said earlier, fearing the Lord is going to drive you away from sins. It's going to drive you away from being evil. It's going to drive you away from being wicked. It's going to drive you away from doing certain things that goes against the law, statutes, and commandments. You're not going to do it willingly. You're going to try to, depart from that if it's against the Lord. But like I said, our people's behaviors, the way that they act, the way they conduct themselves, you can just tell that these people don't fear the Lord, man. And that's going to be to their detriment, man, their demise, because that's why the Lord is getting ready to bring forth a lot of these judgments, man, in the earth. Because ultimately, you Israelites not fearing them, man. Right. So I'm going to read this precept right here that I got as well. This is Proverbs 8:13, it said, the fear of the Lord is to hate evil, right? So us brothers and sisters that are in this truth, when we truly fear the Lord, we're going to depart from things like this. And people that ultimately possess these characteristics, we're not going to be around them, man. We're not going to want anything to do with them, because these are the qualities of a 2/3 that a lot of our people are. Majority of them, they're 2/3. Their mind is full of pride, full of evil, full of arrogancy, full of wickedness, full of, debauchery, all type of other different things, lust and different type of sins that they commit. They're walking after the flesh, obviously, man. So us being in this truth, right? Ultimately, us being those beacons of light that Yahweh Bashim Yahushua have made us and created us to be, Lord's will we be the elect, of course. But, us having this light in us, which is this truth, it makes us, ultimately be separated from these people, man, in their wicked ways that they partake in, right? So it says the fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride, and arrogancy, and the evil way. And the froward mouth do I hate, man. So we supposed to, as believers, we hate everything Yahweh Bashim Yahushua hates. And that's how it got to be our mindset when we're in this thing. Because if you don't have that mindset, then guess what? It'll be easily for you to be sucked into those ways, man. Being arrogant, being proud, being, wicked and things of that nature. If you don't hate these things, you got to hate these things, because it'll make you depart from it, having a hatred for evil, having a hatred for, people that behave in those kind of, manners and things of that nature, right? But this is Proverbs chapter 111, verse 10. It said, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endureth forever, right? And guess what? We have a good understanding, man. We have this 100% truth according to the Bible. The Lord is supping with us. Yahweh Ratazah, we be at the elect, of course. I got to constantly say that, But the Lord have given us this knowledge, man. And we understand the truth of what we're involved in, and we know that the Lord, hopes he keeps his spirit on us, of course, to continue to keep fearing him, man. Because this is what we need. Because we know ultimately that, in the times that we're about to come into, man, the Lord is only going to deal with those that fear him. As it says in Psalms 34:7, that the angel of the Lord encamp around about those that fear him and deliver of them, man. The Lord is only dealing with people that truly fear him, man. Of our people, other Israelites. He's not dealing with people that, are lukewarm, playing games, being, wavering and not taking this thing seriously. You're going off and doing certain things that, is not pleasing unto the Lord, man. You got a lot of people out here like that. That are not sincere in this thing. They doing this stuff to be pleased of men and not truly because they fear the Lord. You got people doing these things for gimmicks and likes and, to be seen and all of that different type of stuff. These people are not sincere, man. And that's because they truly don't fear the Lord. But we got to pray and hope that the Lord continues to keep his spirit on us, that we don't ultimately give over into those spirits. Because we know, as it tells you in St. Matthew 22:14, that many are called, but few are chosen. So we know that we've been called into this line of work, but we don't know if we're the Lord's elect. So, hey, the Lord can, Yahweh forbid, but if we're not of the Lord's elect, a lot of people can get pulled into these diverse lusts and all of these different temptations. You got people that have been in this truth for years, man, and they're giving up, giving out, bugging out, going back into Christianity, doing all types of things, because ultimately the Lord have taken his spirit from off them. And that's due to them not ultimately, like I said, not having the fear of the Lord truly in them, man, So we want to continue to fear the Lord, man, and continue to do the things in which it is that we know is required of us to do as men of the Lord. And you sisters out there that are sincere, man, we want to continue to keep fearing Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, right? So I'm going to go to this precept right here. This is Psalms 34 and verse 9. It says, "Oh, fear the Lord, ye his saints, for there is no want to them that fear him," man. Right? So long as we continue to fear the Lord and, keep doing the things in which we know is pleasing unto our power, then he's going to continue to keep giving us the benefits. He's going to continue to keep putting his spirit on us, to do this work, to abide in it, to trust in him, to have faith in all of these different spiritual gifts that the Lord has given us through fearing him, man. So we got to continue to keep praying to the Lord for that fear, that we can continue to keep walking in the ways of righteousness, man, not allowing the ways of this world to pull us in. We got to pray to the Lord heavily to keep that fear on us, man. Because as I said earlier, that fear is going to depart from you doing the wrong thing, man. It's going to keep you from doing the wrong thing. That's why you want to constantly fear the Lord at all times. So I'm going to go to this precept just touching on the importance of fear, man, and how beautiful it is to truly fear our power, man. So this is Sirach, also known as, Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha. And I'm going to start at chapter 1, and I'm going to read I'm going to start at verse 11. It said, "The fear of the Lord is honor and glory and gladness and a crown of rejoicing," right? Verse 12, "The fear of the Lord maketh a merry heart," right? And when you go into the word heart in the Hebrew, it means la'ab, which means your mind. So to fear the Lord, it makes a person's mind happy, man. It pleases our spirit knowing that we're doing the right things to the best of our abilities to please the Lord, man. So it's a good thing to, constantly fear the Lord, right? And I'm going to read it again. This is verse 13. It said, "Whoso feareth the Lord, it shall go well with him at the last," right? That's talking about the Lord's elect, man. Because like I said earlier, Psalms 34:7, the Lord encampeth around about those that fear him and delivereth them, man. So he's ultimately going to deliver his elect in the time of Jacob's trouble, in the time of the hour of temptation, in the time during the race wars, the class wars, and everything that's about to befall upon this place, America, man. The Lord is going to keep his elect protected because they ultimately fear him, man. And we know, just like faith, to fear the Lord is a gift, man. Because, the Lord is not ultimately giving everybody that gift of fear or that dose of fear to, to reverence him, to, not do evil things willingly and things of that nature. The Lord is not giving his spirit to everybody, man. So us brothers and sisters that ultimately has this knowledge and understanding, we're very grateful for it, So I'm going to go down. It says, "Whoso feareth the Lord, it shall go well with him at the last, and he shall find favor in the day of his death," right? Verse 14, to fear the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, right? And it was created with the faithful in the womb, right? Just going to show you that you got to be predestined to get this fear of the Lord, man. That's just like faith. The Lord is not handing it out to everybody. He's only ultimately giving it to his elect, man, the true servants, the true believers, man. Lord's will we be of those believers, that remnant, right? But that's the only people the Lord is bestowing his mysteries upon. As it tells you in Amos 3:7, how surely the Lord power will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto the servants, the prophets, man. All right. So I'm going to go over to another precept that I got, just touching on the fear of the Lord, man. Right. This is Sirach chapter 19, verse 18. It said, "The fear of the Lord is the first step to be accepted of him," right? So if you want the Lord to hear your cries, hear your prayers, to ultimately, take you in as one of his own, ultimately he has to draw you near to his son, Yahushua, because we know ultimately that we're not doing none of these things according to our own will. We didn't call ourselves into this truth. Yahushua put the spirit on us to get this understanding, man. And it's a blessed thing to have, but ultimately to fear the Lord is ultimately the first step to be accepted of him, man, which means for him to hear your prayers, for him to, deliver you in your times of need, to get you through certain situations, for him to chasten you as one of his sons whom he loves. You got to fear him, man. Right. And it said, "And wisdom obtaineth his love," because the Lord is only dealing with those that are wise, man. The Lord ain't dealing with people that's walking around being wicked and, behaving in the ways of the world, being a nigga, Salakia for saying the word. But, I just had to say it. But the Lord is not dealing with people like that, man. People with the mindset of a person in the world. No, man, you got to operate with wisdom, man, because that's what the Lord is. He's the true author of wisdom, man. Yahweh Shem Yahushua is the one that ultimately gave us this wisdom that it is that we have. And he only deals with those that are operating in that spirit of wisdom, as it tells you in what that is, the Book of Wisdom of Solomon. Let me get that precept real quick through the spirit, right? Wisdom of Solomon, I believe it's chapter 1. I got to find it because the Lord is only dealing with those that are wise. And this is the point that I'm basically trying to make real quick. So bear with me that, the Lord doesn't give his spirit to everybody, man, right? There's bear with me. I got to find this precept. It's in the Apocrypha. Not into a malicious, right? Right, this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 4. It said, well, I'm going to start at verse 3. It said, for froward thoughts separate from Yahweh Bashem Yahushua and his power. When it is tried, reproveth the unwise. Verse 4, for into a malicious soul wisdom shall not enter, nor dwell in the body that is subject unto sin, right? So Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, making the point that I said earlier, in order for us to ultimately have his wisdom and to fear the Lord, that means the Lord, has mercy upon us, man, because we know that he's not giving away this wisdom to everybody, man, right? And like I said, the beginning of wisdom is to fear the Lord. So that's the first step unto us being accepted of him, as I read earlier, so it's a beautiful thing for us brothers and sisters that are in this truth, man, that we're continuing to do the things which it is that is pleasing unto Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, that he's ultimately supping with us through his son, Yahushua, our Lord and our Savior. And that we got this understanding 100% according to the Bible, that he's allowed this wisdom to come into our vessels out of everybody, because, we not nobody special at the end of the day. It's just a blessing that ultimately the Lord, have put his fear upon us, man, for us to reverence him, for us to acknowledge him, for us to do those things that it is that's pleasing unto him and to the best of our abilities, for us to be walking that straight and narrow to the best of our abilities, right? So I'm going to go into another precept that I got. Just touching on the fear of the Lord, because like I said, it's very important for us to fear the Lord, man. That's the beginning of all things, fearing Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. This is Proverbs chapter 19, verse 23. It says, the fear of the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, tendeth to life, right? Because guess what? You're going to depart from the ways of evil, right? Which we know, as it tells you in Romans 6:23, for the wages of sin is death. So when you're not having the fear of the Lord on you, then you're ultimately going to be walking after the ways of death, which is darkness, walking after the ways of the flesh, right? But when you fear the Lord, right, which is going to depart you from that wicked behavior and those wicked deeds in which it is we used to do, it tendeth to life, man. Right, as I just read. And it said, and he that have it, right, meaning a few sincere brothers and a few aquas that the Lord have bestowed his spirit upon, it shall abide satisfied. He shall not be visited with evil, right? And that's ultimately going into the times that are about to approach, the times of, like I said earlier, Jacob's trouble and all of the evils that we know Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is about to unleash upon this place, America. Long as we continue to hope the Lord keeps his spirit of fear on us to do the things that are right, then we know that he's ultimately going to protect us, man. We won't be visited with these evils, like everybody else is. The Lord is going to have his protection upon us, right? As it tells you in Proverbs 18:10, the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and it's safe, man. We're going to be protected in that day due to our fear, So, that's pretty much everything I had to say with today's video. Just a quick lesson on fearing the Lord. I pray it be edifying to you brothers and sisters that come across it. To the next time, I'm going to say shalom to the elect.